I would like to welcome everyone to our 2019 Veterans Day Convocation. Today our purpose is to take time to remember those that have served our country and those that are currently serving our country. Before we begin our program, I would like for anyone who's in the audience at this time, if you're currently serving or have served, would you please stand so you may be recognized. As we celebrate our veterans, I believe it's important to understand how we arrived at this day for the celebration. World War I, known as the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919, in the Palace of Versailles outside of the town of Versailles, France. However, fighting ceased 7 months earlier when an armistice, or temporary halting of hostilities between the Allied nations and Germany, went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For that reason, November 11th, 1918 is generally regarded as the end of the war to end all wars. In November 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first Armistice Day. From that point on, Armistice Day was primarily a day set aside to honor veterans of World War I. But in 1954, after World War II had required the greatest mobilization of soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen in the nation's history, and after American forces had fought aggression in Korea, the 83rd Congress passed legislation making November 11th Veterans Day. We will open our program with a combined performance by our band and choir. Let me be the first to thank them for their time and effort in preparing for this performance.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This past summer, I was fortunate enough to attend a Navy retirement ceremony. The ceremony was for Commander Chad Smith. During that ceremony, the Old Glory flag ceremony was conducted, and instantly I wanted it to become a part of our Veterans Day ceremony. We are fortunate to have Commander Smith here with us today. Chad is a Speedway High School graduate. He served in the Navy for 20 years with his last command at the Information Warfare Training Command Corey Station. Over that 20 years, Commander Smith earned 5 Meritorious Service Medals, 4 Navy Commendation Medals, a Navy Achievement Medal, and various campaign, unit, and service awards. Today, Commander Smith is living back in Speedway with his family. He's the proud father of Evan Smith and proud uncle of Jackson Smith. He will be doing the reading for the Old Glory flag ceremony. Helping Commander Smith conduct the ceremony are current Navy personnel, Petty Officer First Class Trenton Cadwell, and Petty Officer Second Class Adriene Broome.
Flag detail, post. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant, and I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am revered. I am loved, and I am feared. I have fought in every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Tarawa, Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, and scores of places long forgotten by all, except by those who were there with me. I was there. I led my sailors and Marines. I followed them. I watched over them. They love me. I was on a small hill on Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-torn, and tired. But my sailors and Marines cheered me, and I was proud. I was at Ground Zero in New York City on September 11th as cowardly fanatics attacked America. I was raised from the ashes of once proud buildings by brave firefighters, heroes who risked their lives to save others, showing all that America, although bloodied, will never be beaten. For those who would destroy me cannot win, for I am the symbol of freedom, of one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped to set free. It does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country. And when it is by those whom I have served with in battle, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the surly bonds of earth, and from my vantage point on the moon, I stand watch over the uncharted new frontiers of space. I have been a silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but my finest hour comes when I am torn in strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle. When I fly half-mast to honor my soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, and Marines. And when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the gravesite of her fallen son or daughter, I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave, dear God. Long may I wave. Flag detail, post.
Today it gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. What I like most about our speaker is that his story is one that we can learn many lessons from. His story is like many veterans all around us. I hope after hearing our speaker today, when you come into contact with a veteran, you will ask them to tell their story. Our speaker was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This has caused him to be a diehard Steelers fan to this day. When he graduated high school, he attended West Virginia State on a football scholarship. While there, he also joined the ROTC program and graduated with a business and a military science degree. He was commissioned an officer in the infantry. From there, he served 20 years in the Army. He entered as a second lieutenant and retired as a major. He served in Korea, Germany, Hawaii, and finally here in Indianapolis. He also attended training as a Ranger, Airborne, and Advanced Infantry. What sometimes goes overlooked is the serving and the sacrifice a family makes. Our guest speaker made sure to tell me to mention his lovely wife, Shirley, who's here today. He does have 3 daughters. Melinda's here as well. Let's have a round of applause for his family, please. While holding various jobs since his retirement in 1994, we have the good fortune of having Mr. Howard Dorsey now working and serving at Speedway High School. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Howard Dorsey.
How's everybody doing? Good. Thank you, Mr. Bennett, for that awesome introduction. The challenges people tend to overlook are the toil and struggles military families have to go through. When veterans serve and sacrifice for their country, so do their spouses and children. I'd like to take this time to thank my wife for her service as a military wife all those years. I'm a veteran in the midst of auspicious occasion who was assigned to a number of combat units during my career. I was asked to share with you, as a veteran, my military experience and some of the great exciting things I did along the way. You probably have relatives or know someone who has served the military. They might be an aunt or an uncle, a brother, sister, grandfather, or a family friend. Reach out to them and ask them to tell their story and thank them for their service. They will appreciate your interest and your wonder. Now let me show you a few photos of what I've done along the way and why I'm so proud to have served in the military and the reasons it was important for me to do that. It has often been said that what we value can be determined only by what we sacrifice. Let me start off by saying I initially had no plans to join the United States Army when I was in high school, about at your ages. My dream was to finish playing high school football, play for a college, get drafted, and play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very simple. Let's hurry up, get through this college thing, and go play pro football. Right. Little did I know that there was a lot more going on in the world than playing professional football. A little thing called the Vietnam War. Many of my friends were being drafted for armed services after high school, and some while they were in college. You see, I graduated from high school in 1969 during the height of the Vietnam War, a time that many young men were being involuntarily drafted and sent to the war. We were required to register for the draft on our 18th birthday. That requirement did not go away at the end of the Vietnam War. As a matter of fact, you still have a requirement to register to vote, to register to sign up and serve. When I turned 18, I registered and received a deferment due to my pending college status. See, I played pretty good football, and I knew early on that I was going to college. When I graduated high school, I went to West Virginia State College on a football scholarship. While I was there, I met my wife. While at West Virginia State, I joined the ROTC program and studied business and military science. At that stage of my college and football career, I became fascinated with the military and was given a rare opportunity during my junior year as an ROTC cadet to go to the Army Airborne and Ranger School at Fort Benning, Georgia. That was very rare because not many college students had a chance to go on active duty and train with those kind of guys. Now you got to understand how big a deal this was. Fort Benning, Georgia is internationally renowned as the world's best school for infantry combat training, the world. Our friends from all over the world sent their very best to train there. I had two major challenges at both Airborne and Ranger School. First was the lack of experience. I wasn't a soldier. I was in college, ROTC program. Second thing was time. I was competing with West Pointers, regular Army, and Marine junior officers and NCOs. As a Ranger candidate, no one wears rank. Everyone is equal in status and receive leadership positions rotated during the course of the training. There are 3 training phases. You have to pass each one to move forward. I didn't have much soldiering experience as many of the others. I caught up real quick. But my physical fitness was a major plus. I was well prepped under the tutelage of the ROTC facilities and faculty. The other challenge was I only had one shot at it for the summer. I had to get back to school after summer break. I was going to miss a portion of my senior year football training camp. There was no recycling to another class if I failed any part of the training. Guys were going down for any number of reasons: twisted knees, ankles, broken backs, arms, legs, heat exhaustion, or they just couldn't take it anymore. My Ranger class started out with 275 guys. We graduated 108. They currently don't send Ranger cadets to ROTC cadets to Ranger School anymore. They stopped doing that a long time ago. It's still an option, but it's not widely practiced anymore. You have 3 months to complete the course. You add Airborne School to it, and you got 4 months at Fort Benning. You cannot recycle if you fail. You are out. The Army saw that too many failures were stopped allowing ROTC cadets. I graduated college entering the military as a second lieutenant in 1974. Married Shirley, and away we went. My first assignment was a place called Redstone Arsenal, Alabama, an infantry officer at an ordnance post. I was disappointed and livid as you can get. I was an airborne ranger. I was supposed to be jumping out of airplanes at a combat post with the 82nd Airborne Division or the 101st Airborne or the 75th Rangers. Somewhere preparing to fight warlords and saving my country from the threat of tyranny around the world. I was told many times to be patient and wait my turn. The assignment I had was an infantry assignment, company executive officer, just not a combat post, and things did work out. I got my first medal while I was there, Meritorious Service Medal, and I guess they thought I did a pretty good job before I moved on. After continuing communications with my assignment officer, Pentagon, I got back on track. My first combat assignment was with the 2nd Infantry Division, and this is a picture of my family before I left. The 2nd Infantry Division is located in Korea. Typically, the tour of duty in Korea is 1 year, and if you are assigned the demilitarized zone, it is considered an unaccompanied tour. That means you can't take your family. The living conditions in that part of the country are very rural and don't meet sanitation standards that Americans are used to. There are many areas in Korea that are as acceptable as any in the United States, but living near the DMZ, those conditions are very, very poor. You are cautioned about eating food outside the military compounds due to the unhealthy sanitation conditions. When soldiers arrive in Korea, one of the first things they ask is your MOS, your military operational specialty. If it is an infantryman or combat arms MOS, they are normally directing you to those old dirty military vehicles over on the side, and your ride is to the north. After the soldiers arrive at 2nd Division headquarters in Camp Casey, and in process, units are called to come pick them up. When I arrived in Korea, I was taken to a place called Warrior Base on the DMZ. And in Warrior Base, this is what the entrance looks like. It's pretty bleak. We performed DMZ duties, and we had to wear these brassers. They called them brassers. And when you were in your guard posts or on patrol, you had to always wear one of these. This area right here looks like where most of our training took place. Pretty desolate. You'll notice that these areas are farmers' farmland, where rice is grown. What happens is, up on the DMZ, they provide these farmers, the government does, with a stipends just to grow crops. This picture shows the quarters where the few Ranger qualified officers stayed on the compound at Warrior Base. We had a lot of living space because there weren't very many Ranger qualified officers in our battalion. This is an 81 millimeter mortar section. We always had visitors when we set up and conducted live training exercises. Not only the kids, but families would come out and watch us. When we finished firing, they would roam inside the impact area and pick up the shrapnel that was left around and would sell it. So we didn't have to clean up after ourselves once we had exercises. This picture shows the results of a live fire training at a different location where the grasslands were dry and the fire raged. This area is typically large, and there are a lot of residents. I was out here checking to assess where the fire was traveling, making sure it was traveling north and not south. The U.S. and the Republic of Korea military conduct joint training exercises called Team Spirit every year to practice combined arms training and war fighting skills. It's a real big deal. But one of the things that happens is every time you have this program or every time you have this exercise, the North Koreans go nuts. The North Koreans will typically go on full alert because they think this really what we're doing is not practicing and training, but actually getting ready to go to war. Team Spirit uses a lot of Army aviation for soldiers transporting and supply runs during the exercise. During Team Spirit, it's a pretty exhausting experience. You have a lot of soldiers who are going 3 and 4 days without sleep, working in tactical operations centers, and just having a really, really tough go at it. We're just coming back from Team Spirit, and we're pretty much done. On the DMZ, you'll notice that this right here is a bunker, and it's the rear area of the training site of the guard posts. They have 2 guard posts in the DMZ, and these guard posts overlook or look into North Korea. On the opposite side of the border in North Korea, they are actually looking back at us as well. We assign medics, I probably shouldn't be showing this one, but we assign medics to control duty of the makeshift porta potty collections. In these guard posts, there are no running water, there are no indoor plumbing. We have to run wire in order to get electricity. All of our food is carried up from the rear and brought up to us and fed on a daily basis. The things that are located in these facilities are communications equipment that tracks movement in the minefields, and the complete guard post is surrounded by mines. This is a photo of a guy outside of a communications shack. This is what the inside of the bunkers look like. This is one of the guard post locations where we're observing things to the north. You'll notice that fence line further out into the area is North Korea. More areas of the guard posts. This picture here is a picture from a soldier's magazine, and it gave a historical account of the mission of the DMZ. It shows the minefields that surround the guard posts within the DMZ. The article announced the pending turnover of the American district or the American sector to the North Koreans. After Korea, I finally got my assignment with the 82nd Airborne Division after graduating infantry officers course. After joining the 2nd Battalion 325 Infantry, I later took command of the anti-armor company, had a distinguished leader come visit some of the training that I was at. Our unit were hosting General Sir Roland Gibbons, Chief of the General Staff of the British Army. His visit was really hot stuff at Fort Bragg, and I was really honored to have him come see us train. Another picture of me out front of my company headquarters. This is a program or a picture of me getting ready for a training exercise at a place called Camp Bullis, Texas. It was a military training reservation near San Antonio, Texas. And one of the things about the 82nd Airborne Division is that when you train, they actually put you on airplanes and they take you to areas that are unfamiliar to you, because normally you're going to go into training areas or into real live areas where there are very unfamiliar terrain, and you just don't know what's happening. So they want you to get familiar with operating in areas that are not familiar to you. This is a picture of us jumping into Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. This is a jumper coming down in Eglin Air Force Base, where we conducted a level of company level escape, evasion, and survival training there in Florida. More pictures of the training. In the escape, evasion, and survival course, what we actually taught guys was what happened if you if you don't have food, if you can't find food. You're evading the enemy, but you gotta eat something. So you're going to have to forage for your food. And so we actually teach soldiers how to do that. We'll also teach soldiers how to field strip, in this particular case, chickens. We also had a pig out one time and showed how to field dress a pig. But those are the kind of things you got to learn as a soldier in order to survive on the battlefield and survive, period. More pictures of us moving through the survival and escape and evasion training. I was also assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division in Germany as a mechanized infantry battalion operations officer. I worked the last several years of my career training the Indiana National Guard as a member of the Combat Training Advisory Team before serving a second tour in Korea. I retired in 1994 after 20 years of service and elected to retire here in Indianapolis. And I think that was a pretty good move. That's all I've got for you. I really appreciate you listening.
As we conclude today, I would just like again to thank our band and choir under the direction of Mrs. Mole for their wonderful performance. I'd also like to thank Commander Chad Smith and Petty Officer First Class Trenton Cadwell and Petty Officer Second Class Adriene Broome. I'd also like to thank Mr. Dorsey for his message and his service to our country. Also, Bill P. is here from SCTV, so I appreciate him being here to record our ceremony. And most of all, my thanks goes out to all the students here at Speedway High School because you've displayed respect, honor, and gratitude for those who have served. One last thing. I hope that today has demonstrated to you the importance of taking time to recognize those that have served and are currently serving in our armed forces. My hope is that you look around and talk to veterans and learn their story. Another hope I have is an act that my dad does often. My dad's here today. While my dad's a Navy veteran himself, when he's out in public and notices a veteran, he simply approaches them and thanks them for their service and shakes their hand. You can do the same. It doesn't have to be anything eloquent, and you don't have to make a 5-minute speech. Simply say, thanks for your service. Thanks, and you are dismissed.